Hey YouTube, coming at you with a quick Gravely video. This is a Pro Turn 460 with the Yamaha engine, which is a pretty rare engine. Most of them are Kawasaki's or Kohler's, but this relates to a lot of different makes. And what happened was it was running fine, and then suddenly it wasn't, and it was really lacking a lot of power, acting weird. I brought it in the shop. I could get it to start and run. I thought I was having governor rod issues, fuel issues. Put a fuel pump on it, put a new filter on it, put a lot of time into trying to diagnose that, and it was still starting to run, and then it started backfiring, acting really strange, and so then it wouldn't start at all. And so I start tearing down the this Gravely is a nightmare to work on, by the way. If you guys own Gravely's, this mower kicks ass. It's awesome, but this thing is an absolute nightmare to turn the wrench on. Anyway, I got this side valve cover off and pulled the head too. I'll show you what we ended up having. These are the push rods that were in that side, and this is out of the left side. We're replacing both heads. I just don't trust doing one and not the other for the cost. They're not cheap. They're 260 bucks a piece, not counting shipping, and then your gaskets are another 60 bucks. But my boss is being smart and letting me just do the whole job. So we're going to do 2 new heads on this mower. This mower's been pretty reliable. I still don't know what exactly happened. I can push the lifters in and out. They're free. The valves feel like they're free, like I don't have a lot of resistance on the valves, but as you mechanics know, even a slight variation in that valve, because when you push on the valve spring, let me make a little room here. You can push this valve in and it'll actuate, and that's all fine and great, but you've got to imagine, if you will, I can push the spring, I can push all 3 of these valves. The exhaust valve will always be tighter, but imagine that at 7,000 RPMs. I mean, it's moving really quick, and if you have even a slight variance in one of those valves, it's going to cause a problem. So, another thing of slight concern, I do have one little spot on that exhaust valve where it tapped the top of the piston. So at this point, we're gonna do them both. But if you're having issues where you're having loping and you can't adjust the governor rod to fix it, which is always the first thing you do, and on these Gravely's, once the cover's on it, it's a nightmare to adjust anything on this thing. It's a nightmare to change oil. It's a nightmare to do anything. I hate working on this machine. But we finally tore in far enough to figure out the problem. So if you can't adjust it with fuel and air, you're getting backfiring, this is a good route to go. And the thing you can do, minus pulling the whole head, is so when you pull your valve cover on the back side, let me grab the appropriate cover here. Sorry, I'm not prepared. So when you pull your valve cover, you could see where these rods, this push rod, of course this was the bent side, but it was laying in here like this. So it's not touching the tappet. I mean, it's not actuating anything. And I think why it ran for a while was this side, the intake side was still connected, and I think the exhaust side bent. And it was allowing it to run, but not obviously very well, because you're just building a bunch of, you're building a bunch of gas, exhaust gas in there, because that valve won't open. So what happened is this side was still working, and then after it built enough pressure, it bent the other rod too. And so it ran for a while, then it suddenly didn't run. So I'm trying to give you guys some symptoms of what, obviously if your push rods look like this, you've got big problems. So luckily everything's turning freely in there. It doesn't seem like there's any damage further than that, but these heads are, not easy to get to. Good luck doing a starter on this mower, by the way. That's a fun job too. I hate working on this Gravely. It's a great mower and all, but it's just the worst thing I've ever worked on in my life. It's just, nothing's accessible. And the little V-twin Yamaha, they stuck in there and crammed in there and then bolted everything around. And I mean, you got to it's like a day just to take this thing apart. It's horrible. And I'm not dogging Gravely for quality or anything, but man, I just would so much rather work on something like this, where I can get to everything without taking anything off. Just doing a service call on this in the field, okay? Your spark plugs are down here, and normally this cover's all on here, and the air cleaner's up here. And just to get in there to get a spark plug out, just to, if we're having just a minor issue on the job, and I think, well, I'll check the plugs and see if they're fouled, getting even a socket, a deep well socket in onto that thing, it's a nightmare. And it's all you can do to service this in the field. I mean, you got to start pulling everything apart to get to anything else, and it's just a nightmare. So I don't know, I'm not trying to steer anyone away from Gravely necessarily, but I wish it was not. I wish it was another Hustler. But anyway, it's a good running mower when it's running, and it goes like the dickens. It's an amazing machine. But yeah, if you guys are having an issue and you just can't figure it out with fuel and air, my next suggestion is, get in there, pull a valve cover. It's not hard to do. This one's 3 bolts. Take a look in there. You should not, you should be able to see, the end of this rod right in this cup. So, and I don't know exactly what the lash is on these, but you should have at either bottom or top, I think bottom dead center, you should have like 7/1000 gap lash on this side of the rocker. But yeah, that push rod should be cupped right in here, and you can look down the valley with a flashlight, not there, and you can look at that rod and you can see if it's bent or not. And obviously if they're just flopping around down in here, you gotta, the issue. But I don't know, it's a weird thing. I think it got hot, and like I said, the lifters are moving. I don't know, maybe we just got hot and bent a valve, and that's what started it all. But what a pain in the ass, big time. So that's just a next step. If you can't find it with air and fuel, my recommendation is to keep it as easy as you can. Taking that valve cover off was no problem. To take the head off is a little more involved. I mean, you've got your muffler, and all this intake has to come up, and then there's a bunch of other stuff. I mean, they just pack these in. It's stupid. But yeah, I've done everything. I mean, like I said, fuel pumps, it needed a starter anyway, and it got one of those. I've just tried everything. I've tested the rectifier on it, tested solenoids. I had good continuity on my fuel injectors. So you're kind of like, man, where do I go from here? And this obviously is the next place to go, is to take that valve cover off, look in there, take a look, make sure you don't have broken valve springs. You can look down inside the spring and you can see the valve guides, and these don't look terribly out of place to me. But if that valve guide comes loose from the head and slides out a little bit, it'll cause the exact same problem that we had. So it's a situation where my recommendation is check those rods first, and that'll be a big indication. And it's, like I said, it's less painful than a lot of other stuff. So anyway, yeah, it's a job. Get one of these sorters from Harbor Freight. Keep your stuff straight. It helps when you're dissecting these, and you know. So anyway, just a quick video on an issue we had. Hopefully this will maybe help somebody. And if you have a Yamaha Gravely, which there's very few, good luck getting parts. We got to drive like an hour away just to get them, and yeah, it's a bummer. I don't think it's a bad mower. I just think they over design these chassis a little bit, and I mean, that's good in a way. It's rigid, you know, it's not gonna bend or break, but working on it just sucks. So anyway, good luck with your mowers, fellas. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments and I'll get back to you. Take care.